GM, everyone, and welcome back to the Trading Floor, the thesis-driven show where we pick apart and challenge the smartest traders in crypto and beyond. I'm Finn Miller, and across from me, coming in live from the US of A, is Mr. Thomas Bahamas. Thomas, GM.
GM, what a great day for a trading show. We've got the war back on, it's Fed Day. The market has no idea what's coming today, and we've got two absolute killers stepping onto the floor today. Great day to start trading, huh, Finn?
Indeed. The lineup is insane. Now, if anyone who's new here, the format is very simple. Every guest we bring on brings us one trade. They defend the thesis, they explain the execution, they tell us their conviction and what would prove them wrong. Then Thomas and I put our heads together and we decide whether it earns a spot in either of our respective portfolios. We head over to JTX and we place the trade ourselves. And you can track all of this on chain at perp.so/tradingfloor. So before we get stuck into it, before we bring on the guests and start analyzing the markets, bit of housekeeping. TradFloor is a subsidiary of the Jito network. Trades on the show execute on JTX, Jito's exchange. Now, everything discussed reflects the opinions of our hosts and guests and is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing here is financial or investment advice, and the full financial disclosures at TradFloor can be found on our website there at tradfloor.com/pages/financial disclosures. Now, Thomas, massive week. We've got earnings reports coming out the wazoo. We've got the Fed. We've got, like you said, the war back on in the Middle East. So it's all happening. Should we have a look at the scoreboard and reflect on what happened last week, though, before we dive into all of that?
Yeah, I think we absolutely should, and I think it's going to be looking a little bit better for you.
That's what fate would have it. So we had obviously a fantastic opening week last week. Incredible range of guests. We had Lucas Bruder, CEO and co-founder of Jito Labs. We had the lovely Simon Molzer, who most people know from the Solana ecosystem core, but he's also a founder of Solana ID and a brilliant technical analysis trader. And we finally had Johnny JPEGs coming on as well to tell us a bit about what's going on in the meme coin trenches. But these were the trades that came, Thomas. How are you feeling about last week's trades, given that now we're both down? Me to the tune of 0.67%, and you down a whopping 2.08%. What's the read on how we've performed so far?
Well, I mean, we didn't perform the best is the short of it, but overall, like I still like the trades that I took, right? You know, we're down a small percent, but we're not out. I think my worst trade is Hood, and you know what? I still like the stock. I mean, we'll see. They have their earnings coming out today. It seems like if earnings come out good, the stock goes down. If they come out bad, the stock goes up. So we'll see exactly what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, Zcash, I bought a little bit after Zcash dumped. I saw that you added there, so we like the Zcash, and I mean, I still think that the thesis is holding strong, right? They released Ironwood, so I still like it. Is it going to 2x today? It sure doesn't seem like it. So these might be, you know, as far as the show goes, these might be longer term trades. Is what I'm thinking, right? You know, we want to in my mind, I want to check this portfolio and see it up like 5x, but that's not the reality, right? We're taking trades at responsible sizes of our portfolio, right? 5 to 10% of our portfolios went into these trades, and they're up a small bit or down a small bit. I think that I still can't get over that Lucas came on and his choice was Ket and it went up over 2x after. It's still up a good amount. I think that was a at the time we were looking at that, it had just pumped a ton when he was talking about it, and immediately after the show, it just kept going up. So, um, if we were thinking about more short-term trading, that probably would have been the play to take. But yeah, I mean, I really did like the format as far as how the trades go. Taking the trades at the end was a lot of fun. We got to showcase some different trade execution types. So I think that it ended up pretty good, but the performance could have been a little bit better. How do you feel about it, Finn?
Yeah, obviously, I'd echo that. No one wants to be down after the first week of a trading show, especially when you have some good trades that do get pitched to you. But look, I am happy with how Zcash is going. I remember, a couple of guests mentioned it up around the top here, around not around the top, but it would have been probably here last Wednesday around $510. That still felt a bit hot for me. I'd drawn up my fib levels and I'd had trend line, and so my first bid here, I was sitting at the zero point 0.5 the mark, and I do have this lower bid set here as well. So I'm happy with this to drop and move around a bit for a few more days. Obviously, I think Zcash will continue to perform well over time. I think if we have some huge kind of wealth distribution in the US, especially with midterms on the way, Zec will perform quite well, I would say. And look, to your credit, as I mentioned, Kit was around here, I believe, last week, and it, like you said, absolutely ripped after it was mentioned on the show. Went from around 4.5 million to a top of probably 18. So brilliant call from Lucas right from the get go. It's just unfortunate that both of us ignored it, but what can you say? I didn't feel good about aping into a meme coin that was already up 300% on the day. So I think no love lost. If that goes back down to that same level, maybe I'll be interested. But for now, it's still very much in the same position. Hard to know. Thomas, we have an awful amount of content to get through. I want to quickly get your take on what the market's looking like today. As we mentioned, we've got the Fed chair making some announcements later on. If I move over to Kalshi here, we can see that it's in about 50 minutes this decision is going to be made. And according to Kalshi, we can expect that this rate is probably going to be maintained. It's trading about 75% chance of staying flat. Do you think this is an accurate read of what's happening today?
Yeah, I do. So I don't think that they're actually going to hike these rates. But I mean, it doesn't help that the war's starting, right? A lot of that is based off the inflation numbers. When the war starts, prices of oil goes up, inflation goes up. So it's a sticky situation. This is Warsh's like first big meeting of where he could potentially raise these. So I don't think he really wants to start out by raising these rates right away. But I don't know. I mean, Citadel came out, Citigroup came out saying that they're potentially going to hike these rates. I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. Those are big names, not just throwing around wild predictions, right? Those are like pretty accurate, pretty like well thought out responses. So I don't know. It's tough out there, right?
It is indeed. And even aside from the Fed, we've got a massive week of earnings coming in. So I've dropped over to backpack here for a sec. Obviously, markets are a bit all over the place. There's been some damage done, especially in tech stocks and semis over the past few days. But it's a massive week for earnings. Look, we've got Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, SK Hynix, even Mastercard. Like, this massive, massive week for earnings. Hood as well. Is there anything in particular that you're paying attention to more than anything else at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, so, Finn, first of all, you're cracking a little bit there, so I got to bring that up. But I'm more interested in crypto, right? I think that crypto's got a good bid going for it now. I think that while a lot of these stocks are seeing some turmoil, we're not seeing, the downward trajectory for crypto anymore, right? The bad news is not sending the coins down. I think Bitcoin's been holding up very well. I think it looks good, and I hope that our coins stay looking positive. We'll see. I feel like are they on a cliff or are they actually holding strong and that's going to turn into some sort of floor there? I don't know, but I definitely, they hike rates. That's not good for risk assets. That is not good for crypto. That is not good for all of these stocks that are already, seeing some danger coming into them. Is that, why there has been kind of a market-wide dump in a lot of these stocks that are overheated. I don't know. It could just be they were overheated. But I would like to sure see a different, to see some crypto go up. So that would be my hope out of this, but we'll see.
It has been remarkable how well crypto has held up on this because it feels like it's been probably 6 or 7 months that we've been sitting on the sidelines watching memory, watching neo clubs, watching everything related to the AI trade absolutely rip while our bags continue to grind towards zero. But in this last sell-off, we've seen everything tech stock related take a nosedive, and Bitcoin and crypto has been largely untouched. So I think that's optimistic. It's very encouraging to see that we're actually holding up now. It hints to the fact that maybe we're at a bottom, as so many people are loving to say. Ansem's here. He's saying bottoms in on Bitcoin, bottoms in on Solana, bottoms in on chain speculation. Time to make some money. I would love for Ansem to be right here. But look, I'm very excited to bring on our first guest. Obviously, Tulip King needs very little introduction. Ex-Masari reporter now. He's over at Counterparty TV working with Third Guy. Something I've always admired about Tulip King is that he's got an incredible read on the wider market. Something can happen at face level, and he's going to be looking at 2, 3, 4 ripples out. He's got a very great holistic, wide lens view of what's going on in the market. So very, very excited to get him on. Thomas, any further things worth mentioning before we get the man himself in the booth?
Yeah, I mean, I am super excited about this. So Tulip King has been putting out some legendary trades on the timeline. I was, loving the way that he broke down like his full thought process on how he thought through like the Zcash trade in particular was, got super bullish. It became a large part of his portfolio. Saw the hat coming, saw a lot of that coming, ended up shorting it and making a ton of money. So I know that he was on a heater. When he actually went on the Thread Guy stream, I thought that the way that he talked about the markets was fantastic. Like his take on why we need Bitcoin was like inspirational. So when we were putting the show together, I was like, all right, Tulip King is at the top of the list for who we want on the show. And I think that a lot of the takes, I've been watching the Thread Guy stream more often, and he has fantastic takes, right? And he's got a great team behind him that are coming up with these takes that are looking at the market. And I think a lot of that actually comes from Tulip. So I'm excited to hear from him. Like I can't wait to see what trade he comes up with.
Yeah, obviously someone who has got a tremendous view of the market. Welcome finally to the trading floor, Mr. Tulip King. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're
Yeah,
doing
well, a bit
great.
worse
Good
for
morning.
wear given what's going on in the markets, but look, that happens. You can't have green days without having some red days, and we're seeing a fair few red days at the moment. Tulip, first of all, I just want to grab a kind of an overview from you. You've obviously been very vocal on the timeline about the east versus the west in terms of semis. What's your read on the AI trade at the moment? Obviously, we're seeing everything. It looks like it's starting to fall apart. Even Intel had an incredible earnings; they completely smashed it, and then that trade was reversed in within days, maybe even hours of a very positive earnings report. How are you feeling about the AI market and the AI trade at the moment, and what's your overall view of the market these days?
Yeah, I think you can expect a lot more volatility to come. I don't necessarily mean um, short-term volatility. Like obviously volatility is comprised of like volatile days, but I think more so if there's one thing I've learned watching AIs and the semi trade for the last few years is like the market is just incredibly inefficient. Like nobody still knows how to price these things. Like there are no experts on Wall Street. Nobody understands how semiconductor chips work. And like the few Twitter anons who kind of have a grasp, I think, of what's actually going on, like don't have enough money to like add signal to the market. Right. So I think of it more in like a regime dominated view where something like Kimi K3 comes out or the news about China scaling up their production of DUV lithography machines puts you into like a bearish regime and the market can anchor to that and start to reprice assumptions. And I'm sure we're going to see some admin tweets or some new Chips Act 2 or something in response to all of that, and that'll put you into a kind of more bullish regime where you're trading that optimism for some amount of time. I think the net effect is kind of a crab. Like if you stretch out on a multi-year time horizon. Um, so if you're good at trading, this is a gift from above. But if you've been like long only and you're not comfortable with position management, risk management, or like not staying on top of it, like the market's just gonna hurt as many people as it possibly can, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Now, are you looking at these AI stocks more than you are at crypto right now, or how are you viewing these?
Uh, 3 weeks ago, the answer probably would have been yes, like 3, 4 weeks ago. Recently, like crypto has started to get interesting again. There's definitely some some green shoots in the market. The way I think of the AI stocks, like in my personal, is so I used to work. I'm an electrical engineer through college. I used to work for AMD. I would say I'm kind of on the further edge of like people who understand like semiconductors and AI on the technical side. So I really look for technical moments where like new tech just dropped or new something like that, and I can just kind of express that edge. But otherwise, my current obsession has really been how to get away from the AI trade. Not not even because the bubble may pop or not or whatever, but I just think like I'm really starting to reflect on my own portfolio and where I want to take it, and it's time to find like stronger sources of uncorrelated returns, right? Which is what like Bitcoin was for so long, and what some of these crypto projects, like in theory, can be.
Yeah,
So
how do you
I
get
trade
away?
the how
How
do
do
you
you
get that? Well, that's the
Yeah,
billion dollar question.
it's everywhere, right? It's in everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think like funnily enough, crypto feels like a lot of like gambling and perps and all that stuff nowadays. That's uncorrelated, right? Like
Yeah.
AI up down, right? People love to gamble. I think a lot of the like I think pharma, like biotech and like the pharma industry is in some sense correlated because we all kind of have the assumption that AI will change the industry. But I think it's uncorrelated to like AI revenues, right? It's like a business that will just use AI, whether it's American closed models or Chinese open models, right? So I think you can find these types of spots where basically does this business need Nvidia to make money for them to like go up or down? If the answer is no, then you're like roughly uncorrelated.
Yeah, then
So
you
is the
can.
idea to see kind of where AI hyperscalers are going to be spending and go there, or are you looking more at industries where the impact of prolific AI use is going to drive greater efficiency and cut down operating costs? Like what do you think is the first industry that really bears the success of prolific AI use?
hmm I'm not sure what the first industry will be, but I think that's definitely where you want to be. I think everybody should study like the 2000 like 95 to like 2008 2010 like Nasdaq tech stocks like through the dot-com bubble, and like the big takeaway was Cisco was the largest stock in the world, right? Because essentially there is not enough internet capacity for all of these internet businesses. Cisco is building all the routing layer, the connectivity layer, bringing everybody online, so let's pump this thing to the moon. And then the problem is none of these internet businesses like pets.com generated enough revenue to support, the capital inflows to Cisco. It rolls over, and then it's, takes 20 however many years to like get back to all-time highs. But the beneficiaries of that build out were businesses like Facebook, Netflix, Amazon Web Services, Azure, YouTube, Snowflake, who could essentially build businesses on top of the excess um, internet capacity that was built. I don't know if NVIDIA will necessarily roll over, although I definitely think you can start to question its long term prospects here. But yeah, which businesses are going to benefit from an excess of like AI capacity? So it's either I'm creating a new business like that just wasn't simply imagined, or like I'm changing my business and scaling it up. Yeah.
A good read, a very, very good read. I've seen the biotech thesis being played around a lot, but something you've been particularly vocal on in the past week or so is the East versus West semis divide. So I don't want to sound like Ray Dalio here, but there's a lot of mounting evidence, a lot of mounting theses that suggest that the age of America is over. China is here to play. They're more efficient than us. They can build things out faster than us. They're the greatest manufacturers on the planet, and they have been for many, many decades now. Do you think that the age of America is over in terms of capital markets? Should people be looking to reallocate over out into the eastern continent?
I think the way you phrase the question, like, is it over with respect to capital markets? I'm not 100% sure about that. I think is the game lost in like a geopolitical macro chat sense. Yeah, I think we've kind of already lost the game. As far as markets go, it's interesting just because there's an entirely different social contract, right? So in America, where everybody's retirement is the 401ks, is the pension funds, right? And the boomers run the economy. Stocks have to go up, right? This is why elect Obama, the market goes up. Elect Bush, the market goes up. Elect Trump, Biden, Trump again, the market goes up. Like I kind of laugh to myself when people are like, oh, when the Dems take the House, I'm like, you guys, Congress hasn't done anything since the Louisiana Purchase. Or, oh, when AOC takes the House, I'm like, you guys, like, you think she's going to take the market? Or, oh, Trump runs for a third term, which is kind of on the table, right? Like, that's not going to tank the market. Like the first thing you do, like the tech stocks, they'll turn woke again if they have to, or they'll turn trad based again, even further if they have to. It just doesn't like the political economy of the US absolutely necessitates the stock market going higher, right? So, which is very unlike China, where they kind of don't care how high the market goes, right? Like Jack Ma, Ant Group, you step out of line and like, okay, you're going off to camp for a little while. And the market is completely like subsidiary to the interests of the state, right? Like in China, the state leads the markets and they don't really care if it goes up or down. And in America, the markets lead the state. So I think politically, you can see a regime where the market continues to go up and it's just reflective of multiple expansion, right? Where Nvidia isn't making more money, they're getting outcompeted for chips in overseas markets. So revenue growth isn't where it needs to be, but the stock just keeps going up, right? And I think the American government has like in near infinite levers to push that on for a while longer. So it's one of those theses that I think is actually like incredibly hard to express in the market unless you have a strong political assessment of both like cultures and like their social contracts.
Yeah,
I love how the
it's very
stocks.
difficult.
Oh.
Sorry, go on, Thomas.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I love how you look at the U.S. stock market and it's just up only forever, and it has to stay that way.
Yeah.
It's like there's no way around it. It's like these boomers are way better at pumping their coins than all of crypto Twitter combined, right? It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, and eventually it will change. Like I am a
Yeah.
believer that the great crash or whatever is coming eventually, right? But like I'm also a believer that it's much further away than everybody thinks. It can definitely take a long time to get there.
And at the same time, they can always just overinflate their way so it at least cushions the fall a wee bit, and the chart doesn't look like it's been rug straight to zero. It had a bit of a buffer underneath it to at least give the appearance of continuity. Tulip, there's a reason we brought you here. We're very curious to know what you're looking at right now as far as the most exciting trade that's crossed your desk. The time has come to step to the trading floor. Tulip, what's the trade? What have you got for us today?
Yeah, so I am pretty obsessed with Eli Lilly. I think it's trading around 1 something trillion nowadays. I think in the coming years, it's probably a $5 trillion company at least. I think that a 5x over many years is maybe not the most exciting thing in crypto, but I also kind of expect it to do such and like as close to a straight line as you could possibly see, which I'm not advocating for, but like if you're a real trader, like you can you can get infinite size on this thing and whatever amount of leverage you can stomach, right? So like I think like what you can actually squeeze from this trade is a pretty significant return. And I kind of break the thesis into basically three parts. The first part is however much sales of like GLPs, like the Ozempics, are priced into Lilly, I think it's like just not even close. So basically, for everybody, Ozempic is the drug that everybody's taking that makes them stop wanting to eat, and then obviously they all get skinny, right? And this is why, insert your favorite celebrity. This is why they all started getting skinny a few years ago, and by this point, most people have like a friend or two, or a friend of a friend, like somebody within their own social circle who's taking the drug. But it's been in kind of a persistent shortage actually for multiple years. It's kind of getting resolved now, but it hasn't like taken the world by absolute storm. But what is coming down the pipe is a new drug like retatrutide, I believe is how it's pronounced. Everyone just calls it Reta, which absolutely is going to take the world by storm. And the way I look at it is Reta has actually been found to essentially be like a step function, an improvement in the efficacy of these drugs for weight loss. So, the first generation drugs just were basically an appetite suppressant. The second generation drugs had a second like activation, and it more or less complemented that, making it more efficient and kind of tampering down some of the side effects like nausea. So you could put people on higher doses and they wouldn't have such side effects. What Reta does with like the third activation that it's making is it actually stimulates your metabolism. So whereas, Gen 1 and Gen 2 were essentially tamping down the appetite, like less calories in, Reta tamps up the burn, more calories out. And that actually creates like it's not like the change from the second gen drugs to the third gen drugs is bigger than the change from the first generation of drugs to the second generation of drugs. And like you kind of have to see it to believe it, but it's staggering. So I don't know if anybody knows Rasmer. He's like in the crypto streamer circle. He was very vocal about his Reta journey. I met him in person for the first time a while back in New York, and I was like, oh wow, like he just looks fantastic. Like he actually just looks great. And I think people severely underestimate the social dynamics here, which is why it will sell better than anybody could possibly fathom, right? So like when the celebrities, on the TV screen get skinnier, maybe you feel good or bad about yourself, but it's not like that motivating at this point, right? But like when your friends get skinnier, right? When people in your social circle get skinnier, it actually applies more peer pressure than like some abstract figure on the TV screen, right? And the way to think about it is if you take Reta and get like incredibly fit and sexy, you are literally, and I mean it like definitionally, you are literally a walking billboard for the product. It is going to go hyper, mega, ultra viral, right? And the drug works so well, it is outperforming like the surgery where they shrink your intestines and like shrink your stomach, right? So for a simple injection, it is getting greater results than surgery, right? It works disgustingly well, right? And then the other thing that I think we can all intuit in society is all of these health impacts that are downstream of essentially the like endemic obesity in our society, right? Like all the inflation in joint pain goes away in the Reta patients who lose all the weight. All of the sleep apnea and poor sleep goes away in the people who lose weight. And then when you can sleep well, your energy levels are higher. When you lose the fat, your hormones return, and like people are literally making more babies. Like it's solving the fertility crisis, which Elon is crashing out about. So one, the social pressure from all of your friends getting on it and the body change being like remarkable is huge. Two, people are underpricing. You're going to go to your doctor for knee pain and walk out of there with a Reta subscription. You're going to go to your doctor for sleep apnea and walk out of there with a Reta prescription. And now imagine being the one doctor when there's the cure everything drug also makes you skinny and sexy. You will go out of business as a doctor if you aren't prescribing this thing like candy, So I think, some people model 20 million, 50 million. I think you could probably see like 1 billion people on this drug. And I'm absolutely
Whoa.
not kidding about that. I think, in America, about, 40 to 60% of people are obese. I think the target audience is like larger than people who are just obese, right? Like there's a difference. Everyone goes like from overweight to normal weight to like normal weight to like cut and fit and sexy, right? That applies a pressure to like people who aren't even being factored in to the calculations here. So, I mean, you can see 100 million, 200 million Americans on it, right? And then across the global population, like you can see like 500 million to like a billion plus people on this drug. I think that will create the most profitable product in all time. Like I can project a world where Lilly is making more money than Apple, Nvidia, and Micron combined, right? Like it like nations will be putting people on it so they make babies. If America wants to do a ground war in Iran, well, we can't recruit people because there's so many people who are obese with chronic issues. Now you're getting drafted and you're getting a Bretta injection. And insurance costs are the most politically poignant, one of the most politically poignant issues in America. Well, if everybody lost weight and got healthy, insurance premiums would just go down. And I don't even have to change policy. I don't even have to go single payer, national health care, whatever. Republicans want to be skinny, sexy. Democrats want to be skinny, sexy. Let's pass the free Retta for everybody bill, right? Like this thing is going to and Wall Street can't price this, right? Because like what Wall Street analyst is going to go to his boss and say, yeah, have you considered how sexy people want to be? So it's simply not priced in, right? Like this drug will sell unfathomably. It'll be the most profitable thing to have ever been created. That's like step one, right? That might get you to 5 trillion on its own. Step two is Eli Lilly has a long prestige and history of research. And Dave Ricks, the CEO of Lilly, has kind of remained publicly committed to about 20% of their revenue going into R&D costs, right? They have to keep feeding this machine. Very quickly, within a year or two, they're already projected to be spending more on healthcare and health research R&D than the NIH, right? Which means Eli Lilly will be spending more in the field of medical research than nation states, right? And then if I'm correct and the Reddit projections are 10x too small, then they'll be spending more than nation states on health. They'll probably be spending more than all nations combined on healthcare research, right? Like they will be an absolute beast in the nature here, right? And the area they've been obviously investing very aggressively in is AI, right? Everybody loves to talk about insert pharma micro shitter, insert pharma micro cap, whatever. But Eli Lilly, to my understanding, already has the largest compute cluster that they've been building with NVIDIA, and it's growing the fastest. So the bitter lesson teaches us all that he who has the most compute wins, right? So they're going to have more money than God, and they can just plow it into as many GPUs as they want, right? If GPU prices crater or whatever, great, we'll just buy more and get more. And if they don't, great, we're one of the few companies that makes enough money to field a massive footprint, right? That goes into a drug discovery pipeline, which is combined with all of their proprietary data, right? Because it's one thing for like your watch to tell you health and whatever. Like Apple actually has a lot of healthcare data, right? That's good for them. But Eli Lilly's been putting people through clinical trials forever, right? And the amount of data and metrics collected in a clinical trial where they're also cross-referencing every drug you take, everything compared to these other things, it's night and day, right? So Lilly has a compute advantage. Lilly has a data advantage, right? This is not data that like OpenAI or Anthropic or any of the labs have, right? Lilly is already working on figuring out how to lease out that data in like secure compute environments to like downstream smaller startups, right? And then you also have to look at it where like now comes the moat of their approval process, right? So even if all of these startups could discover all the drugs in the world, you still have to do like an FDA trial and clinical process, right? Which good luck, right? Like this is actually another area where Lilly runs some of the most efficient FDA trial processes across all of the pharma companies. So
Yeah.
if they invent 100 new drugs worth trying, they can actually then go try them the most efficiently. And that's not a process AI can speed up, because you have to give the person the drug and just wait. What, right? So like AI doesn't speed that up. Like whoever has the lead there already wins. And the FDA is a government organization, right? The same way the military loves to give huge contracts to a few publicly traded, because they're easy to regulate, American companies, and then those companies federate out work to secondaries. The FDA is the same. They don't want new pharma startups. They don't want to deal with 100 new people. They like Lilly, they like Johnson and Johnson. We're going to work with these 3-4 people, So Eli Lilly has a moat on the clinical approval process as well, right? So you can see where they essentially supercharge their entire process, and they have a moat, right? And then the final thing is like AI for software, right, is very different than AI for drugs, right? When Netflix invents video streaming, you get Amazon Prime and Apple TV and Hulu, because unless I literally go copy paste their code base line for line, I can recreate that functionality without getting into patent infringement. But like drugs and compounds can be patented. So if my AI discovers 20,000 drugs for me, I can patent them in a way that a software company can't patent algorithmic improvements, right? Or new streaming software or whatever, right? So they have a regulatory moat, they have a clinical moat, they have a patent moat, right? And AI, cheap, expensive, whatever, they can win that, right? Just because they have so much money, again, coming from Retta. So that's step 2, is basically becoming like an AI pharma. And then final step 3, the long tail outcome. If you saw in the news, Lilly is also curing cholesterol, right? They have this clinical result from an LDL cholesterol injection where it doesn't lower your cholesterol on some pill you take. You inject it and it's just cured. You just have low cholesterol now. So if Eli Lilly cures fatness and high cholesterol, which is heart problems, basically, they are now curing what are the 2 primary causes of death in the world. So people live longer. Okay, well, what's fascinating about old people, right? 90-year-olds take exponentially more medicine than 70-year-olds, take exponentially more medicine than 50-year-olds. So if Eli Lilly creates an entirely new massive cohort of 90-year-olds, they've actually grown the most profitable segment of their customer base. So I think it's at 3 steps, basically. Is Retta makes more money than God. They become one of the most efficient AI businesses that actually has a durable, sustainable moat that improves their business. And then the right tail outcome is people live longer, which actually sustains a higher lifetime patient values, and actually justifies the valuation. So,
Man,
5 trillion is kind of a fun thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love everything about this trade, and I love your breakdown on there. Okay. So I mean, I think at like the simplest form, like who would pick getting a surgery over getting a shot? You brought that up before, and it's like it makes so much sense. And when it comes to healthcare, healthcare costs have been up only for the longest time, right? Like there was that one chart where it's like costs over time, healthcare went up, and it's like tech, like TVs went down, right? So healthcare has been one of the most expensive things in American lives, right? So if you
Mhm.
can do anything to break that down, I think that is massive. And yeah, I mean, so much that I like about Lilly. So $5 trillion market cap. Like what would
Sure. Yeah.
invalidate this? Like, like where would the thesis actually break down? Like I love the way you broke all
Mhm.
that down, but like, is there anything that you could see that could invalidate that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you can kind of work step by step. So, first thing, will Retta not sell as incredibly? There's a few takes. Like one, there's the Chinese compounders, right? Like people are taking Retta hasn't even been FDA approved. People are taking it today through the sketchy Chinese websites online. I think that's more of an indicator of demand, right? Like people want this product so badly, they're injecting Chinese peptides with like lead and mercury and all of them. Like, I do think like look, everybody rips the Chinese jewels, so like maybe people don't care, right? But I think people will have a high preference for like a trusted brand, an American regulated brand when it comes to like injectables, right? I hope. I could be wrong there though, right? Like China might just saturate the market with like a cheap alternative, right? The other thing is, Novo Nordisk is the other company that has kind of their GLP-1 line. From what I can tell, their like version of Retta is essentially a year behind Eli Lilly's in the like clinical process. It's also, you know, they've kind of fumbled the bag with their GLP-1 and the way they handled that. There's a reason the stocks trade very differently, even though they have a shared thing. Um, or something like Hims disintermediates or Amazon Pharmacy disintermediates, and the margins end up somewhere else than we think, right? So one would be like if Reddit doesn't just doesn't smash the numbers, right? I'm not super worried about all of those, but that would
Yeah.
be the case. Two would be, you know, maybe they do just get beat in the AI thing, right? Like maybe Anthropic, because Dario does love like biopharma, right? Maybe Anthropic locks in and says, okay, we did Claude Code. Now we're doing Claude Bio. The only thing is he's so worried about like somebody making a biological super weapon and stuff. I struggle to see how he navigates that. I think politically, like it's kind of funny, as much as people hate the pharma companies, the AI companies have found a way to be even more hated. I imagine people would rather inject the Chinese peptides than the OpenAI peptides, to be honest with you, right? Or the
I feel
Claude
like Dario
peptides.
is less popular than Martin Shkreli these days. Like,
Oh yeah. And look, it's kind of funny. Like Sam Altman looks good right now because we hate Dario, but like Sam will do something that pisses us off. Like they only ever look good when the other one manages to make themselves look even worse. It's all like it's a pair trade between the AI CEOs, right? So you know maybe the AI stuff doesn't pan out. I still think they make a gazillion dollars off of Reddit, and it doesn't really matter, you know. But like that the AI component I think is very uh, important for Eli Lilly keeping their revenue multiple, right? So, like, you know, it could be the case where their revenue 10x's, but that was kind of priced into their current multiple. So you get good returns, but you're not getting stellar returns. You kind of do need this AI narrative, I think, to pop off for the market to support this. Like they have a leading multiple in the category, right? So I think you need some AI sauce, but if they don't get that, you know, the returns could be dampened because you don't have the multiple. And then the right tail outcome of the like old people, yeah, that's just like fun to say. I don't think you really need to factor that into the trade at all. But it's just like if we get to a world where that's the case 6 years from now, then instead of selling at 5 trillion, I'll just keep buying more. You know.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, there is a lot of like the for research only, research purposes only out there of Retta. I mean, I'd warn against those if you're out there. But
Yeah.
you know, as far as their research goes, it seems like other peptides are becoming more legal as well, right? Like the peptide movement is happening. And with their research arm, do you think that they're going to capitalize on that as well? Or are they going to kind of stick to, you know, like new and better GLPs?
hmm I think the I think the rest of the peptides strike me as niche so far, where you kind of have this self-selecting behavior where the people doing Retta or like, you know, very early to the Ozempics and stuff before they were proven kind of clinically safe and all of that, like they're also the type to go try the next peptide, right? So like your the behavior of that early user base isn't really indicative in my mind of the behavior of like a billion person user base, which is like just very normalized, right?
Yeah.
Like they like again, like even if you are getting like skinny, sexy, beautiful, you're healthier, you're sleeping better, your relationships are better, everybody at work is nicer to you, you know, like life is great. Like injecting yourself with stuff is still like a high reluctance behavior set. So
Yeah.
like I don't see people signing up to like do the double injection unless there's something of value, right? So you know, maybe somebody makes that new peptide and hopefully it's Lilly, right? That like
Yeah.
has another shocking clinical result that is great. Um, but I really think like it's less about peptides in my mind and more about like this is the skinny drug, you know, which
Yeah.
and it just happens to be a peptide, so people are like ascribing a huge amount of bullishness to that category.
Yeah.
yep, excellent. Look, Chub, I love the thesis. I think making the shortcut towards being beautiful and sexy and having a healthy lifestyle, people are going to take that pill 10 times out of
Oh
10.
yeah.
Final question, because we do have people waiting in the wings to come on and share their theses. What would be your entry point into this right now? Would you say wait for some kind of pullback to a certain level? Would you say just get in there now? If you were someone looking at this chart today, where would you advise them to go? And obviously, nothing here is financial advice, there's no investment advice, so that's make sure that's said. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been climbing into this thing, just kind of here at earlier levels. I think I don't I don't really expect the market to realize how big a deal this is until either A, Reddit gets released and it's instantly out of stock, and that's supposed to happen sometime in early to mid 2027, I believe, is FDA approved expected. Like, that will be the wake up calls when you the same way you see the tweets of like people in line to buy silver, and then silver like has the leg, right? Like it'll be the wake up call, or maybe till their first quarter where they're like, yeah, we like sold as much of this drug as we could possibly produce, and we think there'll be shortages for the next 4 years. Basically what Nvidia has been saying with GPUs, right? So I think you have time to get into it. So I don't think you have to like full brick slam it. I do think like it's a pharma company, right? So like their customers are like another, they sell like insulin and diabetes medication, right? So like that's a consistent user. So I think your downside is limited, right? Like you could already see like all of tech is rolling over, and here's Lily just chilling with their premium and their current price. Which means like if you're looking for like a sub 1000 entry or a lower entry, if you get that, then I think something has gone wrong, and I'd be revisiting this thesis anyways. So I think here's as good a price as any. Don't be in a rush though. Like you have time. Like allocate responsibly.
Brilliant. Look, Tulip, that was a very compelling thesis. I love that you've come on and you've brought on a stock. So we're venturing out of this hyper speculative reflexive crypto bubble into something a bit broader with a bit more tangible business models. Tulip, it's been great having you on. If people want to know more about you, about what you're working on, where can they go and find that?
Yeah, just follow me at Tulip King on X, and then tune into the Thread Guy streams every day at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, twitch.tv/Thread Guy. So that's what I work on when I'm not trading Lily.
Amazing. Well, you guys have been crushing it. We really love the thesis. I personally am likely going to take this trade, but love the way that you broke it down. Keep on crushing it on the Thread Guy, and we'd love to have you back at some point.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, boys. See ya.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, a very compelling thesis, Thomas. Look, I feel like you're already sold. I have a few lingering, not doubts or questions. I feel like he was really bullish on Reta, but maybe not so much Lily per se. I feel like it's bullish on the product rather than the company. I feel that could be replicated. So that would be my only constraint. That would be my only reason to kind of go against this. But we can debrief that a bit more towards the end when we start placing these trades. We do have a fantastic next guest on. The next guest is obviously Squid, who has worn a lot of hats in crypto over many years. Previously over at the Drift Foundation. Now he's working on his own project called Proof Exchange, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I was lucky enough to play around in the testnet they ran a few weeks back. But beyond that, he's an exquisitely good trader. Squid is consistently one of the best traders that we've seen on FOMO. Even this morning, I woke up this morning and I looked at his profile. He'd made a solid amount of money selling into that upbit pump on Meta. So very keen to hear what Squid is making of the current state of the market and find out a bit more about what any theses he has that is approaching.
There he is, GM
Hello,
Squid.
hello.
How you doing?
GM, doing well. It's good to be on. Really like the idea.
It's great to have you on.
Been
I'm
following
really sorry
that.
I'm really sorry that there was a bit of a delay there, but obviously you probably saw Tulip King. He's loaded with alpha. He's got a million good ideas. So when he starts talking, he starts sharing his thesis. You just have to listen.
No, it's super compelling thesis. Definitely need to spend time to actually look into Lily myself.
Absolutely. So Squid, I want to start first of all just by you giving us kind of a general overall view of the market today. I think you're someone who has really a keen eye for valuing different assets and kind of seeing their fair value instead of getting sucked into this hyper skeptical, hyper reflexive market that we live in. Talk me through some of your recent FOMO trades, because seeing you're up large on cred. I saw you just netted some profit on Meta there as well. Talk me through kind of what's driving a lot of these theses that you are executing almost on a daily basis at the moment.
Yeah. So actually, when I think about in general trading, I do not spend much time trading. because building a startup, like this takes 95% of my time. This is very much just looking for where is there like obvious mispricing. Some views on the market overall is that I actually, like I come from more TradFi fundamental background. I don't think crypto trades on fundamentals nearly at all. Like it's still very much flows, and those are mostly driven by like the crypto Twitter like attention bubble. So when looking at these trades, it's rarely fundamental value. It's or rather, where do I think this can get attention, and then does it have attention already? Just in general, again, when thinking about like my execution isn't great because not spending a ton of time looking at these charts. It's mostly do a ton of people own this? Is this something people are already talking about this? If it's all over crypto Twitter, you're probably at that like later part of the flow. So the expected value changes. When walking through a couple of the trades I've taken recently, I think cred was quite easy because if you understand like the MetaDAO mechanic, if a protocol is trading under NAV, you can liquidate it, which means it's like essentially risk-free. Like there's a lot of nuance to that, but like that's the way to view this. So this protocol was literally trading under NAV after raising like 30 mil with like VCs participating. So it's pretty comfortable to size in there. And then the reason I haven't sold yet is I think it's starting to get a bit of a narrative pump. They do good revenue. People specifically on chain have been looking to get exposure to like these stablecoin plays, which are printing money. But most of them are still either private or like public and captured by like these off-chain markets. Cred is the first with real revenue, like built by a real experienced team who's actually building in that space. And the fact that like you had 30 minutes to buy it under NAV, like essentially risk-free. Yeah, I think that was obvious mispricing. Obviously, in retrospect, it's up, but that's how I was thinking about it at the time.
Yeah, and that was pretty oversubscribed as well, right? Like, wasn't it oversubscribed by like $30 million or something along those lines, and then it came out under? That seemed, in hindsight, that looks like a pretty good spot. You know, I didn't see it in real time like you did. Something that I struggle with is like, how do you measure the attention and the FOMO? What's your what are your qualifications for that? You know, like I see a coin pumping and I just assume that I missed it. You know, how are you looking at that? How do you evaluate it? And like, when do you actually choose to act on that?
Yeah. I think the first thing, which again, like spend less time than I used to here, like, okay, how many holders are in it? Are there 50,000 holders? Are there
Yeah.
under 1,000? Like those are very different numbers. The other thing is FOMO is really nice for this. You can sort of look. FOMO has like a good chunk of crypto Twitter, at least enough to serve as a proxy for how many traders are on there. So if you look at it and there's a ton of FOMO holders on there, it's like, okay, like this has captured crypto Twitter's attention. There's other tokens which will be pumping, but there's literally like no FOMO holders. And that's easier to like buy. And then like seeing it on the timeline, do like a search for it, see who's shilling it. All of these are pretty quick, high level, but that's generally how I think about that.
Yeah, so get in before FOMO gets it.
Yeah, well, as a loose proxy, yeah. And then how to actually enter, I think one, like you have to like believe in it yourself. The other is like, usually you want some upward momentum. Like you're better off buying a token that's going up than one that's completely flat. But yeah, again, not super picky on the entry. Generally, I think there's an edge in having a longer time horizon. And if you're taking a trade where your thesis is like, this token doesn't have attention or like capital going to it yet, but I think it'll come in the future and you don't know when, like the downside's usually like lower, but you have to be willing to hold that for longer. And especially given like how reflexive crypto is now, I think there's a meaningful edge in even like having a 1 week hold time horizon, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, with time
Believers
horizon,
are more and more
it's
punished these days, I think.
Sorry?
Believers are more and more punished these days. I feel like the believer class of early generations of crypto, they struggle in this new market.
I think that's only true if you buy after like flows have already come in. Like if you're buying a chart that hasn't gone up hundreds of percent yet, Like maybe it doesn't go up, but then the downside is like, I don't know, maybe 20%, not like 95% for some of these meme coins.
So now, as far as that goes, like believing in these tokens and having a longer time horizon, I can't do that with meme coins, right? Like I don't know when it's going up, I don't know when it's going down. Like this, you bought some MetaDAO tokens, and projects that are raising through there. I think that that's actually like the most bullish part about MetaDAO is that they're actually creating tokens worth buying and holding for a long time. Like, are you looking like pretty hard at the MetaDAO tokens and what's being released because of that reason, or do you want to talk a little bit about how you're thinking about those?
Yeah. I think I'm a big fan of MetaDAO more for like philosophical reasons. Like this is solving a problem in crypto. Team's very strong, very long-term aligned. When thinking about most of the assets, I actually don't love them as like a trade. The main reason for that is like the way they're structured and the way the people who look at them value them is often around fundamentals. And although some of these companies are very good businesses that like are improving fundamentally, that the time horizon in which those improvements take place is a lot shorter than that of like crypto Twitter and what this capital is looking at. A team I really like is Solomon, big fan of the founder. They've been shipping a lot, making a ton of progress, like very thesis aligned. But because they've been building, like there's been less communication and the token's just been like flat. And like you sort of want to be bidding into the momentum or narrative there. I think Avicii is another great example. Like they caught a narrative, and when they did, they went up a lot. It has since settled. They're higher than when they started, but gone down significantly. And it's like, okay, the attention and that cycle of attention and capital is a lot faster than the fundamentals of like any business. So when you trade stuff on fundamentals, it's hard. At least in the crypto Twitter environment. Hopefully that changes. I think, yeah, the healthiest thing for the industry would be more stuff trading on fundamentals.
Yeah,
Or
I like
some
that.
loose proxy of fundamentals.
I like that. So when you're looking at flows, like what are you looking for, right? You're looking at the chart, you're looking at the price is going up, you see it moving. Are you just ignoring the fundamentals, or you're like, all right, this is something that's interesting to me. I'm going to be taking a look at it. Let's take a look at who's buying it, what are they buying? What qualifies it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, some of it is like personal belief. Is it like a narrative? I believe. Like a lot of these launch pads have sort of not really touched just because I don't think like another launch pad is super interesting. Like, is it something new? Personally, like I still personally have a thesis there. In general, I think get conviction via your own theses. Don't buy something because someone else believes in it.
Don't borrow conviction. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a good approach. The other thing is like, is there some reason like I have an edge? Like say it's something like a AI project. To get an edge on like understanding is this legit or not? Okay, maybe spend 15 minutes reading the docs. If you have familiarity with the space, like pretty quickly, is this legit? Like ask the dev in Telegram some questions. Like it's amazing how many like simple questions people can't answer, and then it's like, okay, this might be vibe coded. And then like look for data. Like is there actual data here supporting like what they're claiming? Like these, you can generally do DD in like 15 minutes if you're in groups with people like someone already may have done DD. Like is there something you understand you don't think the market understands yet, that like reinforces that momentum? Yeah, I know that's like a super fluffy answer, but it depends on the project.
No, I think that's great. I think that not many people do their due diligence when it comes to tokens. So, I mean, if you're able to actually do that, build your own conviction, not borrow it and just ape coins, it seems like you're able to actually hold these tokens longer. Like one of the things I was looking at your FOMO account, you actually have a pretty long like duration for how long you actually hold your coins versus a lot of other people. I think mine on there is like sub 1 day because I have no conviction, where it's like you're actually like you built that conviction before you're actually executing those trades. So you're okay on like a 40% dip if you still think that didn't invalidate your thesis, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of that's also I'm just working all the time, so don't trade as much as I want.
Yeah. That
But
helps.
yeah, I generally think like, um, It depends on your like risk profile stage, but you're often better sizing heavier and trading less.
So you mentioned Squid. You're actually spending less and less time on the charts these days, and you're spending more and more time building your own startup. So I've touched Proof a wee bit. I think it's fantastic. Do you want to describe for the audience and to Thomas, who hasn't had the pleasure of diving into there just yet, what exactly Proof Exchange is and what it's unlocking for the blockchain economy?
Yeah. No, so Proof is we're building a new type of derivatives exchange that is sort of bridging this like burgeoning events prediction market space with the like assets people already trade and care about. What it unlocks is I'll give high level, then I can give like a specific trade example as well. But what it unlocks is right now, if I'm like trading Bitcoin or like hype around Clarity Act, I can look at prediction markets and it's like, okay, this might pass. Okay, what does it actually mean? How is the market pricing that, and how much is it being priced in? That doesn't actually tell me useful information on how to trade like Bitcoin or whatever I'm trading. Also, that exposure I get from those prediction markets isn't directly useful. Like I can sort of hedge if I wanted to, but it doesn't like overlay with the asset I'm actually holding. What we're trying to do is connect that. So instead of telling you what's the probability an event happens, it's what does that event mean for the world? More specifically, what does that event mean for the assets you hold? So it'd be like, what's the price of Bitcoin if Clarity Act passes? Oh, that's a good example there. So this was for SIMD. It's like if the SIMD activates, versus doesn't activate. What does it mean for the price of SOL? I think what's interesting is like most people, this was run in our like paper trading MVP. So not sure it's precise pricing. I think generally like it's an accurate shape. But like most people think, oh, the SIMD is super bullish. But I think when you realize most people think the SIMD is bullish, most people, it also like everyone's working to pass the SIMD. A lot of that's sort of already priced in. So actually like the reactive, like if the SIMD passes or not, it's probably like if it passes, you see some like maybe little short-term jump, maybe longer term, there's stuff people haven't factored in as fees accrue. But the actual impact is like the null case where this doesn't pass is quite a negative signal to the market. And then by offering these as markets, you can long or short. You can also then more precisely position and trade around those beliefs. Another interesting market was MicroStrategy. I don't know when you saw like strategy. Oh, strategy might be like the Terra Luna of Bitcoin. Like this might collapse, implode on itself. People were like, there were like prediction markets on what's the probability that like strategy sells Bitcoin or repegs or anything, which like people would speculate on. That actually doesn't tell you anything because like logically, a lot of people look at that like, okay, if strategy sells, that's bearish. But actually, like when running these conditional markets, it was if strategy sells like X amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin should be higher because the way, at least talking to people who like traded in this, the way people were pricing it is like there's this massive overhang on the market operating under the assumption strategy might collapse that they need to sell. When the market finds out they sold, it's retroactive. It's via an announcement after they already sold. So actually, like when they sell, this is probably a bull case for Bitcoin, which was priced in these conditional markets, and then we saw actually like play out when that sell was announced. So there's a bunch of it adds a new dimension to how people think about assets, events that impact assets, and like the intersection between the like world and what you're trading overall, which I think is a pretty natural evolution of markets, and it's also just something super excited to be building.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
it
So
almost sounds as though it enables you to hold spot Bitcoin, but then also short Bitcoin in the event that MicroStrategy goes down. So would that be a typical example of how you might be able to hedge your thesis, or play out the belief that MicroStrategy collapses while still holding Bitcoin and being protected from that? Is that a kind of a good example or a good way of thinking about it?
Yeah, so you could do that. You could also just open the conditional long. So like if MicroStrategy collapses, you're long, or you're long in the case where MicroStrategy doesn't collapse. And then if it collapses, it gets reverted. You get your margin back. You have no loss there. And then I think there's a lot of interesting trades. I won't go as deep there, but cross margin between the two conditionals and underlying which is very capital efficient. And then you can specifically price out implied probability, like isolate the spread between one sides, between each other. And it gives you a much more nuanced view on how the market is thinking about the world.
Wow. Okay. So I haven't used the site yet. So I show up on the site. You're not actually betting on the event, right? You're betting on the reaction the market will have on the event. Is that right? So if I go on there, like, what does that look like? Am I going long, short, like Bitcoin on one of these, or what exactly does that look like? Just so that everyone can
Yeah.
get a good understanding of that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's you're trading. There'll be 3 charts. Or can you go to the top? I should have given you a password ahead of time, or all the way to the top. So as you can see, this like moving chart graphic, the white would be Bitcoin. The red and green would be like Bitcoin if an event happens, Bitcoin if an event doesn't happen.
Okay.
And then whichever settles to the underlying, and you can long and short that in parallel with the underlying. And then whichever doesn't happen reverts, and you get your margin back. So it's a lot closer. Although it's event related, the exposure and the experience is very similar to trading perps. Don't know. I know Finn tried it out. Don't know if he can speak to that. But yeah.
Yeah, look, I greatly enjoy trying it out. I feel like it unlocks a lot of new ways to play the market. You know, there's ways that you can hedge against things happening. We've seen a lot of recently in prediction markets things like ice cream vendors shorting weather, so that if it's a cold day, they make money on the fact that it's a cold day, which is money they would otherwise make if it was hot and they were, you know, selling lots of ice cream. So I think this kind of plays into that as well, in a lot of different ways of navigating existing markets. So yeah, I'm very excited for this to go live. Before we move on to your pitch, Mr. Squid, what's your general gut feeling around strategy at the moment? Are you feeling like Sailor is kind of bitten off more than he can chew? Do you think that we have a soft land here? What's your view overall on the Sailor situation?
Truthfully, don't have a strong enough view to take a position on. I think it's very related to like Bitcoin and macro. My guess is like there's also some reflexivity where like if the markets go up, he's obviously in a much better spot than say like global markets tank. But yeah, I don't have a strong enough view to act on or take a trade on.
One more thing about proof. So
Fair
okay,
enough.
a lot of what you're building on proof is like what people are trading anyways, right? Like when you think about like the Fed's decision today, like are they going to hike the rates or not? Am I going into this by longing Bitcoin, by shorting Bitcoin, by not? Like a lot of that is like what crypto trading is in general, right? Where you're just kind of like formalizing that more into a platform, right?
Yeah,
Right.
no, I think when I trade perps, I usually trade it around events. What this offers you is new information on how the market is pricing both sides and actually pricing the event, but also on top of that, new exposure on different ways to play around and trade around the event. So I think it's a very natural evolution.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Now is it's in beta right now, right? This isn't live yet. Or you have a date yet that you're looking at, or what's the time frame looking like?
So it's in testnet. We should be mainnet in a month, probably 2 months. I'm sure our devs might give a different timeline, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Optimistic timeline, 1 month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Add
I like that.
50% to the duration.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, we'd love to have like some sort of like prediction markets on our shows where it's like, hey, we've got this Fed decision right now. Are they going to hike or not? This is what the markets are saying, and this seems like exactly the type of data that we would want to point at. As far as what's the market pricing it, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's actually super interesting, just like distribution lever, like for shows like yours, just in general. Like it gives you an empirical point on how markets are thinking about events. Like that could be like say OpenAI's public and like the presidential election. Like how do different candidates' views affect like the AI market? I think that's like really powerful and interesting information to obviously traders, but just people in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of fantastic levers there, and it does open up a whole new range of doors to how we navigate on-chain markets. So definitely got to unpack there, Squid, but there is a reason we brought you on the show. You have a brilliant trading mind, even if you're spending more time building than trading these days. So we want to hear it. What's the thesis you've got for us? What if you were making any trades today, what would you be looking at?
Yeah. So I think subnet summer. This is a bit of a hot take, but there's a bunch of very interesting subnets making meaningful progress. I don't think they have like the market has repriced because there's a lot of friction in both understanding and onboarding there. I think that friction is actually a good thing. And then even then at a higher level, it's regardless of what's going on in broader markets, like I think AI is going to be an increasingly important driver of the world. Still to this date, there's very few legitimate ways to get AI exposure on chain where like crypto native companies actually add value. And I think the way AI is going with like open source, there's increasingly areas where like distributed data, distributed training, like can add meaningful value to this like open source ecosystem of AI. And then when looking at where most of that innovation is happening, at least where traders like you or me can get liquid exposure, it's on subnets. There's still a lot of like scammy, I won't mention any of those projects, but like more scammy AI projects like throughout crypto. But like whereas the more AI focused ones are often on Tau. Specifically, some I like are there's a new inference one, and then SN9 is doing a distributed training run, which I at least like this is another like I want to believe that it works, that we can like train these massive models on like on the internet via the public, that we aren't going to be in the future reliant on Anthropic or OpenAI to like train AGI, that we like as a world can do it distributed across all these computers. And to do that, I think crypto is a great way to like surface that. I know there's a couple companies working on it. The only one that you can get exposure to now is IOTA. Like Pluralis, big fan of as well. They're still private. There was another one before called Templar, which blew up their token. But they were doing good work before that. So yeah, this is, and I will caution, like I've held this already for a while, probably will keep holding it for a while. This is one of those, I think, market hasn't priced it in. And it's like, if attention goes to distributed training, this will capture some of that tailwind. And then the downside, I think, is also lower. I mean, just given that it's like less volatile, and I don't think that many people hold it yet.
Okay, so I don't know that much about this area. So subnet summer, like what does that mean? Is this is BitTensor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So and there's subnets on there, and we are in the middle of subnet summer, and I still don't know about it. What do I need to know?
So yeah, or subnet summer is a meme. I don't think we're in subnet summer. So these are all like paired to Tau. So like if Tau goes up, these go up relative to USDC. The other thing is like each of these represents basically like its own project. To buy it, there's friction. Like you have to bridge to Tau. It's currently not like in the zeitgeist of crypto Twitter, although I'm starting to see more and more, at least sharper people talk about different ones. And then depending on that, like since the whole Tau ecosystem is very AI focused, like all of these will be building some sort of AI project. This one is specifically working on distributed training. There's others working on like inference, like data. One just like published a paper with OpenAI, like officially, and it's trading at like 20 mil market cap. I think some of that is because of the friction, like because it's a subnet, not a Solana like based token. Like it's harder to understand, harder to buy.
Yeah.
But in general, like when the fundamentals are good and it doesn't seem like capital's there, those are the areas I like to look, because again, as I'm not an active trader, it's like I can have a thesis, hold this for months and be okay.
Yeah, I like the idea of that, like
Okay.
having more, like we don't want just like a couple major AI companies running the show, right? Like we don't want the frontier labs to all be like not open source, closed source, and have like some sort of distributed training model. So I like the idea of this, and I feel like I've heard like some of the AI crowd talk like bring up BitTensor before. Like I think even like Jason Calacanis has talked about it on like the All In podcast. So it's like it's definitely like reaching outside of just crypto, which I think is interesting. And I mean, it's a good take on the market. So like what so with this, like I guess you already have exposure to
Yeah.
it, but like what would you say like would be a good entry for this? And like what kind of targets would you be looking at?
Um, Entry, I would say like average in. Again, not super picky on entry. And then targets, I'd be like on attention, like, and then flows. Say it starts going up. Okay, how many holders are it? Is this something that's like mentioned on like the popular trading podcast? Is this all over crypto Twitter? So probably a good time to sell. So it's less like price sensitive. It's more, yeah, more like attention and how it feels like the market's looking at it. I'd say another thing to be cautious of is, can you look up Templar? I forgot which subnet that is.
So you're not even looking at like a market cap for this. You're looking at like, all right, there is going to be some serious FOMO coming to it. You know, once everybody starts pivoting over and they start calling it subnet summer, then you'll kind of start looking at like, all right, when is the top? This is kind of looking toppy, or
Yeah, just also in general, like if stuff's not trading on fundamentals, I don't think market cap and FDV matter too much. Also, unfortunately, still so much of like token supply and those games are going on. So like, what is the real FDV? Like, what's the real liquid market cap is often quite opaque
yeah.
as like a trader. Or I'd look up SN3. Okay. Well, I guess the caution would be this was another subnet doing distributed training. It actually worked very well, the product. They ended up like having an internal fight and abandoning the token. So it's like now zero.
Right.
And I think with some of these projects that do have like real fundamentals, there isn't always the incentive to like follow on to the token, and there isn't the DAO structures in place to like be protective there, which is I think true for a lot of lower cap crypto tokens. But that's just something like that's like the bear case, how it goes to zero quite quickly.
Yeah. Look, if I was just a Solana maxi and I never wanted to bridge off Solana and go anywhere else, the only way, or I guess the best way to get exposure to this would be to just bid into Tau as a proxy. Do you think that Tau is well positioned to capture a lot of this decentralized AI growth, or do you think that there's better value to be found going for individual subnets?
I personally like individual subnets. I just don't see the like this. I think feels like it looks semi bottomed. But I think the like upside is like a 2 to 3x versus like significantly higher for individual subnets. I think the other thing is there is some stuff on Solana that's being built. I guess a lower cap one that I'm looking at is Squire. It's just like a lot of the stuff there, you sort of just have to trust the dev. And unfortunately, also
Right.
generally in crypto, trusting the dev, especially at low cap meme coin-esque tokens, is usually a dangerous proposition. But yeah,
Yeah.
Is
Is there
Squires
any
on
other? Sorry, go on.
oh, I was gonna say Squires on Solana, right? The Pod
yeah,
the Squire or something like that.
yeah.
I've seen that token around.
I'm actually down quite bad on this.
Oh, yeah.
But the thesis is it looks near bottomed. If the dev hasn't given up on it, I think it will reprice, especially since you see like almost vibe coded or vaporware AI stuff go multiples higher almost every week. So it's like, okay, the dev's shipping right now. If he actually ends up shipping something, I think goes higher. Honestly, I probably wouldn't buy more now. Probably has more consolidation, but this is one where it's like watch the dev and do like a little research to see if like he actually follows through on what he was talking about, and if so, it's probably worth a lot more.
it's a pretty big if the dev is still working, you know, like.
Well, yeah, but I guess that's where there's an edge of just like either asking the dev or like following the Twitter. Like, oh, he releases something. Let me take 15 minutes to scan this. Is this interesting?
Yeah, there's a lot of asymmetric info opportunity there. If all you need to do is send him a message and he says, yeah, just, you know, quiet on the timeline, then all of a sudden, you know that things are still cooking away. So I guess there could be some promise there as well.
There's so much alpha and just going in the official Telegram or Discord and asking the dev questions, and it takes so little time.
I love how you can still reach people so easily. Like you get into the right chats and you can still talk like directly to the people that are actually working on it. And especially in, you know, these AI type projects, you could probably tell pretty quick whether they're actually still working on it, whether they know what they're talking about and what they're doing, right? Like it seems like a pretty good way to get alpha.
Yeah. And it's just like a little bit of friction. I think most people aren't willing to do. But yeah.
And also, like with the rise of, you know, everyone's got their own AI subscription now, it's probably pretty easy to take a GitHub link, drop it into your own LLM and say like, look, analyze this. Is it full of hot air? Is this pure vaporware? And you can probably evaluate things a lot easier now than you have been able to do in the past year or so. So again, probably more asymmetric info opportunities there as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think there's literally tools to like scan this GitHub designed for like traders as well.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Squid, I think me and Thomas are going to go and evaluate some of these trades between you and Tulip King and also the community submissions. If anyone wants to learn more about Proof or learn more about you or follow along with your trades on FOMO, where can they find all that information?
Follow me on Twitter and then DM me on Twitter if you're interested in anything like markets related. Always down to chat.
Yeah, that sounds good. We like what you're doing at Proof too. I want to see you come back on here when that's live. You know, we definitely want to check it out. I think it's awesome, and we'll be following you along on FOMO. Keep these trades up. Hope the heater keeps going.
Knock on wood.
yeah, sounds good. Well, we definitely appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on, Squid.
Awesome, thank you.
All right,
curveball there.
Two very different trade theses on the trading floor today. What's your biggest takeaway from Squid? Obviously, you covered a lot of stuff, covered a lot of MetaDAO stuff, got a lot of just general trading advice, and then, you know, diving us into the world of Tau subnets and, you know, Solana adjacent to products of the same. What's your gut feeling based on that conversation?
You know, I feel like that was very interesting to learn about because I haven't looked into Tau or BitTensor at all, right? Other than hearing a few people mention it, that was really kind of like me learning about BitTensor for the first time. It's definitely interesting. You know, there is probably to be a trade to be taken there. You know, I don't know enough about, you know, the value accrual to the BitTensor token, to the Tau token. I don't know about that one. Like, I don't know if that's a trade that I'm probably going to take, like my initial reaction. But it seems like it's an interesting area to look at, right? Especially if, you know, the AI bubble kind of starts crashing on, you know, some of the bigger names. You know, maybe it spreads out to the more decentralized versions where people are actually going to be using them more. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting, right? I feel like crypto and AI, there's just been like so much vaporware for so long. It's like my initial reaction was like, I don't know about this, but it seems like he's done the research into it. It looks like it's promising. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think we've all got PTSD from the AI agent meta of 2025, 2024,
Yeah,
whatever it was, because that was peak vaporware.
Yeah.
Everything was just a ChatGPT wrapper with a Twitter account, and it was completely overblown, oversaturated. I have traded some subnets on Tau before, and it was one of those things where I allocated to a few that I thought looked interesting, and then I forgot about it and went back 2 months later, and they were up, you know, probably 2x, 1.5x. So, look, I think there's definitely value there. I think it's one of those areas where there is a lot of friction to getting there, and so there's not a whole lot of flow. And if you can find products that actually bring value and have good value accrual and are doing solid revenues that aren't completely driven by inflation of Tau and things like that, then there's probably some great assets to go and play around with over there. My concern, though, with that is that everything's priced against Tau. So if Tau falls, then whatever you've invested in obviously falls as well. And that was, I think, one of the issues that a lot of people who are investing in subnets have already faced, is that they got really excited and they started bidding all these subnets when Tau was at $300. And regardless of the performance of the subnets themselves, they're still down, a good 30% there just because Tau has fallen. So buyer beware, I guess. You need to take stock of the fact that you're also going to be making a bet on Tau adjacent to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it seems like one of those things, but if it takes off, it could really take off, right? Like, if that does start heating up and there are more flows into it, like it could definitely take off. But it's not something that I don't know. I don't see it like necessarily booming in the short term here, right?
No, but it is something that could catch a bid all of a sudden. I feel like people are a bit cautious of AI at the moment as well, just given what's been going on in TradFi markets. I think people are worried to be touching anything even close to AI because it feels like that trade is wrapping up and it's going to be hard to catch a bid or attract people back into that market. But speaking of people and speaking of markets, I'm going to shift our attention over to this week's community submissions because we've got a pretty solid list from a lot of solid contributors. This one here at the top, an anonymous submitter. We've got the OG Solana cat meme with Chonky. It's been a long time since I've seen Chonky appear on the timeline. Thomas, what about you? When was the last time you saw Chonky crossover?
Man, I see it every now and then. This guy Chatty Cathy, he's hilarious. I think he kind of helped run it a little bit, I believe. And I would see Chonky all the time over the time, like everywhere was Chonky. And I mean, it was one of the OG Solana cats. So good to see them on here. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be taking that trade. I haven't looked at a Chonky chart in a while, but I mean, why not get an OG cat back in there,
This almost feels like a beta proxy bid to something like Ket. People saw Ket move and thought, what else? What other cat coins have we got? And we've got a lot of cat coins, so it's hard to know. Next on the list here, we've got Cryo Palmer. Thank you, Cryo, for the suggestion. His pitch is Backpack, the BP token. DCA into 30 to 50 centimeters. It will move because Backpack is building both a killer product and the infrastructure for on-chain securities, not SPV wrapper securities, but real stocks that can move in and out of any broker. This unlocks the doors to a lot of new DeFi products to be built on top of those rails. The BP token is directly tied to company equity, so it's not a vaporware token. When Backpack IPOs, these tokens can be swapped into stocks. The thesis breaks on too quick dilution of the float. I really like this pitch, Thomas, from Cryo Palmer. I think at the moment, stocks on Solana is the big narrative. This is what's going to bring a lot more mature capital on chain, which is going to leave a lot more size and essentially just help the chain grow and move beyond this meme coin bubble that we've got. At the moment, Backpack and BP is actually the only proxy bet we have on this RWA tokenized stock movement. So I like the idea. I'm probably going to join him on this. What's your read?
Yeah, I like this one. I mean, Backpack's been crushing it. They're OGs. They're not going anywhere, right? They were the ones that actually went through all the regulation to get these actual stocks on chain. So I think they have like a pretty big advantage when it comes to actually these stocks. Like when people actually look at the differences between stocks, like I pick the Backpack version every time, just because of that. And I mean, they're a fully regulated exchange now. So, I mean, you could do like the comparative analysis of, what's the Binance token worth? That probably wouldn't be the same, wouldn't be right. But, you could start comparing, centralized exchange to centralized exchange and what they can offer. And I mean, the multiples that a lot of these exchanges trade at or are worth is insane, right? So you could start to see that value go up. And I would assume that they're just getting started with a lot of these listings, right? Like the more that they can list, the better. And they've already gone through the process. So I'm assuming, they'll be able to release more and more. And, as long as they keep doing that, and I mean, they keep getting integrated across all of DeFi, right? Bring these out. Let us lever them up on Phoenix or something like that. We got a pretty good business going. So I actually really like that trade.
Yeah, I like it as well. The issue I have with Backpack stocks is that they only come on chain at the top. I feel like every time a Backpack stock has been listed on chain, I'm really, really excited, but it marks a peak of interest and flows, and it's only gone down from there. So that's a shame, but also that doesn't detract from the brilliant work that Backpack is doing and Sunrise is doing as well to bring all of these stocks on chain. So yeah,
Seems
I'm
like you
probably going to
just
take that one.
Yeah, I like that. I think, I mean, you could probably just short them when they come on chain at this point, but I would assume that changes, right? I would assume that they start listing more rapidly and not the top. I think we mentioned this a few times in the weekly stream, but you got to give people what they want to trade, and especially when things get frothy, that's what people want to trade, right? So you have to give people what they want, and you can never time it perfectly, right?
Yeah. As succinctly as possible, if you like stocks on Solana, you probably like BP. Obviously, not financial advice. Everything is just my opinion and Thomas' opinion, and we're just two guys chatting on the internet. So don't take us too seriously. Next along the list, we have Steve Cleanbrook from Triton. Steve says, I'd enter at the recent floor at 14.5 cents. This is on ARX, Arceum's token. It seems that the bears are exhausted and we are retesting a floor. If it holds, we could see a rally as demand would naturally grow due to demand for encrypted computation. The lowest fib retrace level would be my first target. Steve is a very intelligent person. Arceum is a very intelligent team doing something that a lot of people on Solana have been asking for. I am not 1,000% convinced that ARX is the ultimate token in terms of tokenomics and value accrual and everything that goes with that. But I like the narrative and I like the thesis. Thomas, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, I like ARCs. Right. If we're retesting a floor, it's kind of the proxy bid for privacy on Solana, right? We didn't necessarily have a coin that we could rally around other than, bridge Zcash. So I think that there's a lot there, right? Like I don't think that it really has competition at this point. I think Arceum's great. I think the team's great. They've been shipping, and I mean, I like it. I think it's a buy.
Yep. So like that's a yes for you on ARCs. And our final one here, we have another submission from Light of Rahim. Thank you, Light of Rahim, for coming back for a second week of suggestions. We've got entering along at $77.64. Price moves as wicks hold the golden zone and confirm a structural continuation toward the 78.88 resistance upon a 4-hour daily close above $78. Invalidated if price breaks down below $77.10. I think at this stage we've broken down below that, so this has been invalidated in my eyes. But thank you, Light of Rahim, for the suggestion. We look forward to getting another one from you next week as well. I'm gonna make my placements here, Thomas. I'm gonna reject Chonky. Not convinced that that's going to catch a bid as far as cat coins go. I feel like we've got heaps of cat coins, and there's nothing really compelling me to go after Chonky right now. I'm going to take BP from Cryo Palmer. And I'm going to take ARX from Steve Cleanbrook as well. And I'm probably going to reject Light of Rahim as well. What do you reckon? Would you have similar view?
Yeah, let's see. So I pretty similar. I'm gonna reject Chonky. I like BP. I don't think it's. I'm quite a buyer here, right? I think I'll add it to my watch list and maybe buy a dip, maybe set a limit order to get a buy there. I don't think longing Solana is the play, but I like that we're going against Simon's short call from last week. Still can't believe he came on here to short Sol, but yeah, I don't think leverage is the play right here. So I don't think I'm going to go with that, and I'm gonna buy some ARCs.
He's going for ARCs. All right, let's move this over to execution. We'll head over to JTX. First of all, we have to start with the Tulip King. What an incredible thesis on Lily. I know you're bullish on Lily. I know that that you like the peptide pitch. Are you going to follow
Yeah,
Tulip King here,
yeah,
Thomas?
I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer. I think you could probably wait for a dip if you want, but I also think like that chart just looks like it's ready to rip.
Mm. Yeah, it's a tough call because he pitched this on a very long-term time horizon. This is the kind of thing that probably doesn't, I don't want to say probably, but it could move sideways. It could do nothing for a very, very long time. And then,
Yeah.
like you said, all of a sudden, like silver, people are going to be lining up in the streets to get their hands on Red 2 Tride, and Lily is going to go completely parabolic. So this is probably one that's quite difficult to time.
Yeah.
And something I generally like to do when something is difficult to time is I want to gain some exposure now and then set bids later on, just so I can keep track of it. I feel like it's maybe not the best trading strategy, but having a small allocation of something means you just naturally pay a whole lot more attention to it, and you're a lot more likely to track where it's going and what's going on with it. So I'm going to do a smart fill here, just to get a position in there. Let's say, yep, 5% of the portfolio. We're going to run that over. I'm going to say one. No, it won't be enough. Let's go 30 seconds for the smart fill, and I'm going to run that now. That's going to be execute it over 38 orders and just let that roll out pretty slowly. And then I'm also going to drop a limit here for another 5% just into where some of these wicks have dropped down here. So pretty solid level. It also lines up nicely with this local top we had over here. So if I drop 1097, I'll add another 5% to that too. And I'll just let that limit order sit there. So then by then I'll be at 10% of my portfolio in LLY, and I'm probably just going to forget about that and come back to that in some months and hope that that's going to be up. How were you thinking about executing on this?
Yeah, I think I'm with you actually. I think I'm gonna go 5% of portfolio and I'll smart fill as well.
So should I pass you the screen share for that?
Yeah.
I really like the thesis. I like this idea that everybody is going to want to be healthy and sexy and young, and it's going to improve every aspect of their lives. Um, I am still cautious again that he's bullish on Reddit 2 Trade more than he's bullish on Lily, but I think we live in a market now that is dominated by flows, and I think that average marginal buyer isn't going to be going too deep into the minutiae of the various companies, and they're probably just going to rip straight into what is considered the main runner. Let's say this is something we've learned from many years of crypto, and I feel like Eli Lilly probably carries that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the motion that Tulip has. We're already up 3% on the day to 1249.30. Um, it's a good trade. You know, I feel like he went deeper into it than I was expecting, and I mean, it just left me more bullish than I was, right? Like I feel like the way that a lot of these type of things come across, like the mainstream, is like it kind of starts with like the weird crowd, like the looks maxers, like the people that are into like biohacking, like that type of thing. Like they're already on Reddit and all these other things, and you can see the results from that. But then now you're actually seeing all of what's going on when they're actually doing all of these tests, and like I don't know. I mean, if people can live longer, look better, it's fantastic. And I mean, if we have the opportunity to, get a piece of that, it seems like a great trade, right?
Yeah, good trade. This is a long term one for me. This is probably one that I just sit and forget about and come back to in some many months down the track. Next up, we had Squid. Squid came on and pitched us a subnet IOTA over on Tau. Probably a bit too much friction for me to jump over and get into that right now. But I am curious about Pod the Squire. I'm going to probably research that a bit and see what's going on there. I don't know if I'm going to be clipping into that today, but it's definitely one on the watch list. Thomas, are you jumping after any of Squid's trades, or was there anything about his thesis that gave you pause, gave you euphoria? What's your read there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna pass on Tau. Like I want to, how you just mentioned, like how you're gonna play Lily, how you buy a little bit to kind of like keep your eyes on it. I do that as well. And like I kind of want to do that just to keep an eye on it. Like this Pod the Squire is kind of interesting. If we could probably go into a lower time frame, I think it caught a little. Oh no, that's a tiny
No.
bump. But Pod's been down only for a while, so I don't know if that's something that I necessarily want to get into either. But it's something I want to keep my eye on. Like I think that narrative is very interesting. Tau would be an interesting bet because it's kind of like a bet on all of the subnets. And I mean, if it's subnet summer, and you get access to it through the Tau token and it's available on Solana, it's interesting, but I just don't want to take that yet.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a good one to keep an eye on and to find some good resources who are going to give you reliable, objective information about what's going on in the ecosystem. But I'm not chomping at the bit to find an allocation to Tau just this second. Moving on to community trades, I think BP and ARCs were both there. I'm taking both of those. I suspect you are as well. Do you want to talk me through what you're looking like for execution on those?
Yeah, let's take a look at ARCs.
Steve said I'd enter at the recent floor at 14.5.
I mean, we're at 14.5 now. Let's see. Let's pull a bigger time frame. We got 15-minute chart. Because this, I mean, they just released their token not that long ago, right?
Yeah.
It's like people did not want to hold that token. So it came out like 160 down to.
It wasn't airdrop though, right? Nobody ever wants to hold airdrops. These things, 99% of the time they go one way. And like you said, that has bounced and it's now returning to that level. So this could be a double bottom forming. I think we probably don't have enough data or enough microstructure to say that concretely. But again, it's a proxy bet on Solana's privacy scene, I think, and a lot of people want this to succeed. So I'm confident, not confident, but I'm optimistic. I think there's a good trade here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Well, I mean, it almost kind of piggybacks on the Zcash trade a little bit, right? Like if we're bullish
Yeah.
on Zcash and privacy, I think that Solana has a pretty big opportunity to where privacy is like actually used more. Like I don't see anybody using Zcash for everyday purchases. Like no matter what way you look at it, no matter what other people say, I think it's going to be more like held. I think that's going to be more of like a store value. Where I think on Solana, you probably see people do that, right? You probably can hold a private balance and you could probably transact privately and do it, at Solana speed. So I like this as a bet. I think I'll start it out with I'll go with 5%, $50. And I mean, I love these smart fills, right? I'm gonna smart fill 50.
Go on
Let's go.
Smartfill. It's a very reliable tool.
Yeah, let's see.
Nice.
4 out of 5 done. Got it.
To see it. And what about BP? What levels do you like over there?
Let's see. Where is BP? I thought I put that in my watch list. There we go. I mean, backpack.
So our good man Cryo Palmer said DCA 30 cents to 50 cents. We're at 45 now, so anywhere within that range is probably pretty solid. Obviously, you want lower, but we don't know if the market's going to give that to us.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I'm going 5%. Like I'm going smart fill. It's like I feel like for the entertainment,
man loves the smart fill.
Yeah, I feel like for the entertainment of the show, we should size up more. But the flip side of that is like, I don't know. None of this is financial advice, of course, but like you want like responsibility, right? Like you want to be responsible here. We're not trying to blow these accounts up at all. And BP seems like a good buy. So let's go ahead and get that going.
And it's tough to size up on borrowed conviction, right? Like it's very easy to go in hard and heavy on things that you've facilitated yourself and that you've really worked through on your own. It's tough when it's someone else's pitch who's just kind of dropped that on you. You just have a kind of a general idea of what's happening otherwise. I'm going to execute all my trades as well, Thomas.
Let me go ahead and
first
stop
of
sharing.
all, I'm actually going to, I'll take over the screen share. I'm actually going to bet on Squid here, and I'm going to YOLO a small amount into Pod the Squire.
I like it.
Because look, this is a high risk player, so I'm actually going to drop it down. We're going to do 2.5% of the port, and I'm just going to hit a market buy. I'm going to put my faith in Squid, who I think is a very good trader, and I'm going to hope that plays out for me long term. We'll check back on that next week, and it's probably going to be down. But look, we like to live dangerously. BP, I like BP. Thank you, for the suggestion. Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, if you're looking at something, with like a 10x upside, it seems like Squire's a pretty good bet right now, right? Like if Tau catches on, I would assume that some of that would transfer over to a token like this. And I mean, it's down, it's down considerably. So it seems like it's been beaten down where the upside could be pretty high, right?
Yeah, I see the chart, and I think, look, maybe there's a world in which that goes back up. Allocating a small amount of the portfolio to it, I think, if I lose, I lose. I like the asymmetric opportunity there. If I come back to BP, I'm going to do the same strategy that we did for Lily. I'm going to clip in 2.5% now. I'm aiming for 5% of the total portfolio to be allocated here. So I'm going to clip in 2.5% now, and then I'm going to set a limit also for 2.5% of portfolio, but I'm going to drop that to a price just at the bottom of these wicks here. So we're going to go 0.43, and hopefully we catch that, and that fleshes out the position at a slightly lower entry. So thank you, JTX, for the brilliant execution. See how quickly that just pops up, and we can see my levels sitting there. That's very, very nice. Love to see it. And ARCs as well. Last one of the day. What's going on there? Obviously, I saw these submissions and drew up some levels as well. So Steve said you want the lowest fib level. This chart's hit arena, so I'm actually just going to remove that. Look, he said 14 cents, 14.5. I like it again. It's sitting here along the bottom there. I'm going to smart fill. I'm going to follow you. We're going to do a 50 smart fill, and we'll just let that rip in there. A lot of trades taken today, Thomas.
There are a lot of trades, a lot more trades.
A lot of trades.
Yeah, I'm hoping we come back next week and we see some green on some of these charts, because I mean, us being down, it's not a good look, right?
It's not a good look, but also we're only trading spot, so we can't win any shorts at the moment. And also the whole market's down, right? Like there's nothing.
Yeah.
The only way that we could have probably outperformed would have just been to sit in stables and start deploying now. I think we made some good trades last week, even though they're down. But I think, you know, if we fast forward a few months, we're probably going to be on the up there. So I'm happy about what we've got today. We had some fantastic guests. Thank you, Squid and Tulip King, coming on and sharing some of the alpha, shining some of the intelligent light on us, and very, very confident in the trades we've got that we're going to be going on next week. So, look, what else is left to say, Thomas? We've got Fed still coming in. We've got a lot of earnings to come through later on this week. It's going to be an extremely choppy few days in the markets. What are you thinking?
Yeah. I think that these next couple of days could be a little wild. But I think a lot of these trades kind of line up with like my trading philosophy of like, I'm not that big of a short-term trader, right? I think all of these are at good levels where I'm willing to hold these tokens for a while. If we do see a little bit of a dip, we have the stables in order to buy that dip at this point, right? We're building the conviction, like Squid said, build the conviction, and then you can hold the trade a little bit longer. So hopefully we did that, and I mean, hopefully the rates don't get raised on us, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking the rate's going to stay flat. Everyone on prediction markets is probably saying that that's going to be the case. I don't think that we're going to get a wild card announcement from Wash there. Look, Thomas, it's been a brilliant stream. We've had some fantastic guests. To all the viewers, if you have got an undervalued ticket or a thesis worth defending, please submit it on perp.so. That can be a community submission. Or if you'd like to come on the show, write us a message or send Solana Floor Twitter account a message, and we'll be happy to get you on next week for another round of Trading Floor every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thomas, thank you so much for coming on and being on the trading floor with me. I'll see you in the order books.
Yeah, thank you, Finn. Appreciate it. Great episode.